Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So it's finally time to reveal my tests for all the companions. There's been over 190 of them. It's taking me a long time to get this done. So let's just jump straight in. So here it is, my document for all the companions tested. We have in total 198. However, there are a few throughout, like the Valenhas Elite Soldier I've not tested, the Stronghold Cleric not either, or Swordia. I just don't have those companions right now to test. And there might be a few here and there that I don't have either on the list, and feel free to message me on Discord. Let me know which ones I am missing. But in this table, we have a bunch of categories. I have, of course, the name, then I have the combat advantage uptime, so that's like 100% or 98% and so on. So if it's not at 100%, then the companion does have a little bit of room to deal some more damage. Otherwise, the archetype, I have it listed as like mixed. That means they have damage powers, which are a mix between AoE and single target. If they're a support, then they simply just have powers which buff you as the summoner or buff your allies as well. And there should be a note beside it as well what they can provide. Like this one can reduce your incoming damage and also give you some critical avoidance. And then we also have single target. So that's like this guy right here. You'll just deal single target damage, and you have multi-target. It's going to deal damage on all their powers to multiple targets if they can. And then, of course, in brackets, you have like support if they have additional abilities to support the team, like this guy being able to heal, this guy being able to heal, this guy being able to give a damage buff, and so on. You can see that throughout. So the next category is the max AoE hit. So this is the maximum amount of damage that that companion can deal on like their AoE power. However, this is very open to interpretation and what content you're running. So if we sort it between the highest, you can see like I have the Aragon there being able to have the maximum potential damage compared to the other companions in AoE. You just have to be aware of their different abilities, right? The Aragon is going to be using like this whirl ability, right? So he's only going to be able to hit guys around him like that, and so he prefers guys who are really grouped up. Whereas you're going to have other companions like Regis, where it doesn't matter so much. You can have the enemy somewhat spread out, and even if he goes and like attacks this one guy on the side, he can hit them all. Because the area on that whirlwind is like 30 feet, pretty big. And Regis with my test stats is going to hit for like 216k. Then there's like the Shadar-Kai Witch, but you can see again via the note, she has this AoE attack, but that AoE attack can actually hit guys multiple times. Where when she goes against multiple targets, she can cause this hand to come below all of them and just kill them like that. But they, again, have to be grouped up for that, and she has to actually use that power. Sometimes she doesn't use it at the beginning of a rotation, but sometimes she does. So yeah, it's a real mess with AoE companions and how to sort them and what's the best, because they all have their different abilities, and some can be good in one situation and neither good in another. I'm going to discuss it a bit more later on in the video, but we'll move on to single target and counter DPS. So this is the amount of damage that the companion can deal on primarily a dummy, where their target is just going to stand there, not do much, maybe attack a little bit, and yeah, just be sitting there. And we check the damage then over time, and we get like their DPS. So the Blasphemous Assassin, you could see, was dealing like 48,000 in counter DPS. So that is why on our chart it's listed there. And I have all of these tests, so all the different companions, again over 190 of them, and we've gone and ranked them. We can filter them based on which has the most single target DPS there on the dummy. And one thing that I should have tested further is the fact that this Blasphemous Assassin has an ability to put a bleed on the target, and she only starts dealing this much DPS once she has all of those bleeds on the target. So you could see via my DPS test, we were letting her attack for like 13 minutes, and she wasn't dying in that 13 minutes. And so she was able to maintain the bleeds on her target all the time. And what I mean by those bleeds is like when you go and attack here, you can see that she puts these twin dagger bleed. It lasts 10 seconds, but she can continually refresh it, adding another stack of bleed. But she takes 45 seconds to get to a maximum bleed stacks, and only by the time she has hit 10 bleed stacks does she start to deal this maximum DPS. So she's only going to be good in a fight that lasts a long time where the boss is not disappearing. That's very important to note, and you can read the little notes here I have. She also has a support ability, which doesn't work right now, which should be able to reduce the target's defense. Then you have like the Paranoid Delusion, but on the Ranger. It can deal a ton of encounter DPS. Just be aware that it's melee and uses rapid strike, and yeah, that's the DPS. Behind that, you have the Honey Badger, which is pretty good, but keep in mind, again, it's only going to deal this damage when it's at 90% hit points or higher. So you might be better off with something more reliable, like a Tomb Spider, which is a little bit less DPS, but it's not having that condition of needing its hit points at a certain threshold. However, keep in mind, the Tomb Spider is melee. He's going to be just attacking when he's right next to the target, whereas the green scale bowman can sit back and he can shoot his arrows and deal that DPS as well, which is compatible with these, like close, a little bit behind, but depending on the content, he could be best in slot. Like, I was running the new trial just yesterday and testing a few of these companions in it. The new trial, not ideal scenario to test because, again, it would depend on what content you're running. I could be running Dragon Hunts, and one companion that works in the new trial could be terrible in Dragon Hunts, or vice versa. And this green scale bowman, he's going to sit back, he's going to shoot his arrows. It doesn't matter too much if the boss is like moving about the place. He's still going to be able to attack most of the time, and yeah, ultimately he might not take as much damage then by being ranged. And just be aware of that. Then, like, you might not need to get a green scale bowman. You could just run with your Batiri, which you'll have on Mythic anyway, for the 11% damage bonus. So you could use the Batiri instead. And this damage is considering attacking a boss, so it's not going to be any higher. So just keep that in mind. You can see through the rest of them there, all the single target damage. There's been a lot of changes compared to what we had with Module 24. And yeah, hopefully this helps you guys to be able to choose what you should be using. Just again, be aware of the different companions, the different types of companions, whether they're single target, are they mixed, or do they have some support ability? Like, yeah, I mean, a companion that's doing this much single target damage and having mixed abilities with AoE could be really good in a fight where you have a mix between single target and AoE, like the first boss in Master Temple of the Spider, where you get lots of adds. The Warlock Paranoid Delusion and the Wizard Paranoid Delusion can do really well because they're hitting for like abilities that can also have AoE effects. They have the same attacks, which are like 3 combo hits, and on the third hit it's an AoE, so that's why they have some AoE. Anyway, that's the entire list here. You can look through it yourself. Again, link in the description below. But yeah, you can see like the top 10 there are, if we exclude the Cleric, down to the Kuatua, all the way up. But you can see they've made them pretty close. Like all of these here, like 38,000 counter DPS and up, they're really close with each other. And even like these, to be honest, the 37,000 counter DPS ones as well. Well, let's move back to AoE companions. People are pretty interested in what they should be using in like the new zone. And I did showcase how the Shadowkai Witch was dealing a ton of damage. And you will move back to that. And again, going to these ad groups, we can see this time she does the hand effect right from the beginning, killing a whole bunch of them. So she's pretty powerful, especially when they're even more grouped up, because she can hit all of them. I would say for content where you're running against enemies with a bunch of hit points, she can probably deal the most area effect damage these days. You do have something more reliable that I would take for questing, and that's Regis. Like in this new zone, he's always going to be, if you use the command to like resummon him there, and then you go into your fight, he's always going to use that whirlwind right from the beginning, like cutting down their hit points by like a half, and then you can easily go and finish them off with some of your AoE powers. Should help if you're more a new player, and should help if you're on like a leveling tune or something. Just be aware of the cost. This guy will probably get released on the Zen market again, And for now, on the auction house from other player, he's just so expensive. I wouldn't buy him. Again, other option like the Shadowkai Witch. It was a limited time companion and probably will not return unless people really want it. Being able to like cause that hand and killing a whole bunch of the enemies there. Maybe it's a bug and she shouldn't be using more than one hand ability. It's called the Grasp of the Shadows or something. Yeah, maybe she should only be using one of those. And it could be a bug and they could change it. Again, everything here, always open to change. I have this here and I have to have this here because they can change it whenever they freaking feel like it. You cannot rely on companions to not change. So it's always a risky investment going for a striker companion. And like the easiest option right now for single target is to just, yeah, really guys, take the Batiri and you'll be good. I mean, the pseudo dragon still works pretty well. And many people probably have it. It's like their 6th place, 40,000 current DPS. Like it's a little bit higher than the Batiri. So right now I would say like Regis, probably the best reliable companion that I've tested out of all of these, just being able to deal that area damage right from the start. And then the Shadowkai Witch is a bit more RNG, but she has that higher potential in damage. Again, when the enemies are grouped up and she does that hand ability, just, yeah, everything's wrecked. It's just, again, sometimes she'll cast that big ball instead of doing this hand ability, or she'll use the hand ability and only hit one guy like you just saw there. So she's not exactly the most reliable. But then you have like the Air Archon, which, yeah, I have on top of the list. And that's due to its potential of dealing that much damage. But again, everything has to be close. So, for example, I go into this fight here with these enemies, and the Air Archon is going to come over, and he's going to start spinning. He guaranteed starts spinning, but you can see his radius is not exactly that big. The enemies have to be really super grouped up. But the potential damage he can deal is there. Yeah, he's on the top, but he's only on the top because of that maximum amount of damage he could deal on that world. You can see that by the note there again. He has 4 hits, and if, let's say, all of those 4 hits actually connect with the targets, then he could deal maximum 225,000 current DPS. Again, with those stats. More stats, you'll deal more damage. And if you're looking for a budget option to help you questing, I would highly recommend the Mystic Fiora. All you have to do, really guys, is do your legacy adventures, complete your Iceberg Peak, you get the Mystic Fiora. You can run around with it on Epic, you don't have to upgrade it, and it will still deal the maximum amount of damage. You just need to get a enchantment, a Companion Enchantment. The higher that is, the more damage your companion does. But it's pretty solid. You go in the fight here, and she does this like wave ability of fire and just deals damage to everything, and otherwise she'll continually deal damage around her as well. So she's really solid option. Like, she does a mixed damage as well, single target and AoE. You can just cut down the HP of the enemies and just burn them out. Yes, she doesn't have the potential in like one hit to deal as much as, let's say, Regis. Bloody assassin, get out of here. But she will help you a lot with questing. She pretty much does that wave ability right from the start and just cutting down the enemy's HP, burning them. So she's very solid, and I would recommend her for anybody who is on a bit of a budget. And yeah, I wouldn't rate AoE damage as very important in this game at all. You just want something, to be honest, to help you with questing a little bit. So yeah, this was a lot of work, and I'll just leave this filtered on single target damage, and you can download the document for yourself, and then you should be able to use the filters and stuff if you upload it to Google Docs yourself. Just take all this AoE max damage hit with a grain of salt. Their abilities can be all different. Like, Elementor's just going to be hitting in a line in front of him, and they could just end up being only one guy there for him to hit, and thus he deals a very teeny damage. The area on the pigs can be pretty small. Same with the Earth Archon and so on. They have these abilities, but their area of effects really change vastly. Again, just be aware of that Blaspheme Assassin. It's not all sunshine and daisies. She still does quite a lot of DPS. I would rate her around 36,000, 35,000 without the bleed. But with the bleed, it can boost her up to 48,000. But again, getting that bleed takes a while. And then she has to actually maintain that bleed in order to sustain that DPS. So you're better off in most cases going with something more reliable down here. So hopefully this is somewhat insightful for you guys and helps you out. Again, AoE, I would just go with Mystic Fiora as a budget option unless you already have Regis or the Shattercade Witch. Massive thank you again to all these channel members. And we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.